All right, Calvin, let's get on with it then. Now what you see here is a perfectly normal gearbox, right? Wrong. The reason I say that is because it's shot. It's destroyed. It's junk. It's trash. And my original video talking about this when we took it out hasn't been posted yet. So I'll be surprised if at this point nobody has actually pointed it out if I showed it in the video. This gearbox is junk. I had all the parts here, $1,400 worth of parts. Helpful, I appreciate that I got them, but really aren't going to do me any good. Why? I'm glad you asked. This guy right here is the one that goes down through the center, right? Well, can you see in the back side of it? It's all shined up and kind of marred, messed up. It's actually probably got some cast embedded in it. What I've come to the conclusion of, this has been going on for a while, potentially, quite very possibly been going to pieces since we've had the baler. If you want me to show you real quick, see this gear? That goes down in there at this point with the hay, and fine, we can do that. You see how it's sitting down in the cast housing? See that? Well, when I tore this apart the other night, I should have noticed it, and I guess we're going to know after my last video of tearing it apart if anybody actually catches it. That's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to actually be further ahead up towards us, so it is meeting. The other gear is already long gone, so it meshes properly with the other gear. See, what happened was snap ring failed, which in turn allowed that shaft and everything on it to migrate ahead. Well, that is towards the power takeoff of the tractor. Well, I made a comment at one point, I don't know if I said it on camera, I thought it was kind of odd that this was actually shined up. You could see the shine piece right here sticking out of the front of the gearbox. All right, I figured something was up. I knew something was up, and we now know why. But what happened was that snap ring has been broken for X, Y, and Z amount of time, allowed that shaft to migrate ahead. So nothing was actually keeping this guy right here from riding on that cast housing. I mean, I should have noticed that. Didn't think anything of it because at the time, I was just glad to get this thing tore apart so I could get parts ordered, because if you guys didn't notice, I thought I ruined, I said it, I thought I ruined the cast housing from the plug. I thought I destroyed these threads, and I thought this was busted out. So I was distracted by the fact that I was grateful that this wasn't junk. I overlooked this. Pretty obvious now looking at it. I mean, I imagine it's supposed to have, well, all three of these are supposed to be identical, right? See, it's actually got that lip there. There's no lip. There is no lip. So that actually sits right down, nice and solid, perfectly formed for it. Hardly any real movement. So I was naive enough to think, hey, looks fine to me. Let's get parts ordered. Well, the bearing race that actually was sitting down in here, this is why I can't go ahead and use it, or I got the parts, why don't I just put it together? Because imagine somebody might ask why. Believe you me, I've thought about it. If I really thought I could get away with it, I probably would at this point, just because, you know, parts. So the problem is that there's a groove down in here for the snap ring. Well, the problem is if I put the snap ring in, the shim in, and then I put that bearing race down in, because, well, this is originally, when I took it out, it was actually migrating, because that running here, it was actually running against this, the race, like that, and this was pushing the race down the opening, down into the hole. So if I go through and I try to rebuild it, which I'm not about to, the bearing race would be actually protruding out of that opening. Is it going to be an issue? Would it be an issue? I don't know. I thought long and hard about it, and I'm just not willing to risk it. I'm going to get a new gearbox. It's going to be several $100s more now. What was this, 14? So another $700 and some change. New gearbox, and basically just bolt it up and go on with my life. But if this wasn't worn out, if I would have caught it sooner, it would be a different story. I would just rebuild it. But I am SOL. So learn from it and move on. I knew something was wrong. The PTO has a rattle. It has had a rattle on it for a long time, especially after running my buddy's baler. He's got that 567 that I ran. Well, I know for a fact, even running our 535s, that balers aren't supposed to rattle and shake and all that stuff, and I contributed part of that to the fact that I switched the baler over to 1000 RPM. So I was just figuring that running it at a higher rate of speed, more revolutions, it was making the power takeoff shield rattle more. I'm leaning towards the fact that this has been failing for a while. It's been allowing that shaft to a subtle shake to it. If it's not running true and it's even just got a subtle vibration, that's probably where 99% of my problems are coming from, because I can't see anything wrong with the rest of the power takeoff. It's got that continuous, I'm getting so irritated right now, I can't even think of the name for it. The continuous drive on the power takeoff. For those of you that know the mechanical term, I guess you know what I mean. So for the rest of you, it's literally right in the tip of my tongue. You think I could think of that? So whatever. And I'm not upset. I'm not grouchy. This is farming. This is mechanics 101. Sometimes things just don't work out in your favor. So just like that disc bind, I'm going to go ahead and suck it up, be a big boy, and get the parts ordered. But then the good news is I'll have a new gearbox, make sure it's got oil in it. I already made a chain for the round baler. I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably going to be the last update on the baler. Reason being is because you guys really don't need much more. Slap the gearbox back in. This shaft through here is junk. I hope I covered that at one point, but if not, buckle up, boys and girls. There's a shaft that runs across from the gearbox over to the sprocket. It holds the sprocket. There's a bearing that goes in here. That shaft is incredibly unreliable. Never had an issue with the 535. With this baler, the best I've done is maybe 2 years since we've had it, where I haven't had to change it. Well, I just put a new one in, a new shaft. Do I have the old one? Well, I don't have the one I took out, but I have a pretty good example as to what actually happens. This is the one I replaced last year. So this guy goes in here like that, right? Into that opening, and everything, you know, connects here. Well, the problem is it's a hex shaft with this spacer is actually just oh, excuse me, I downed my pop way too quick. It is tack welded onto the shaft. Well, it is a known issue that when they weld it, it actually creates a weak point in the shaft. As you can see, it's old now, but it's all rusted up, but it actually weakens the rest of the shaft from the weld on each side. So it breaks easy, it fractures, it cracks. Well, I did this last summer, all right? Wasn't aware that was an issue. Like this, I just looked at that shaft, the new shaft that has only had a couple hundred, few hundred bales, maybe 500 bales on it. It was cracked. It was fixing to fail. This was fine. No, it wasn't. Let me take that back. It had done that. So the welds actually had broken off here. That actually holds this spacer. And you need this spacer to keep your distance correct going into the gearbox, because it just sits in the gearbox. And then this keeps your distance correct for your pulley when it sits in the bearing or the sprocket. So when I took it out, it was cracked halfway through. It was already failing. This right here was already broken off, so I was just kind of along for the ride. It was literally a hairline fracture halfway around. I'm getting you guys motion sickness. Halfway around that shaft. And to top it all off, Mother Deere decided we weren't paying enough for this part. So last I heard, it's over $400 for this shaft. And it doesn't do anything. I mean, unreliable. So we'll quit talking about that and tell you what I did. I took over the shaft that is still somewhat together, close enough that my welding shop can get something put together. I ordered 3. There's a reason I ordered 3. I ordered the first one to replace the busted one that I took up. So the first one's going to be put in the baler, and I'm going to run it. The second one is in case the first one fails, and technically the third one is also if the first one fails and I need to order parts. At least I have a backup that'll at least get me through my day. But the alternative reason why I bought a second and a third one is that if this one fails, if the first one fails, but it still runs about as long, I know this is a terrible way to think, if it still runs about as long as the green flavored one, I still have the 2 or 3 behind it. So if the first one fails, I can replace it with the second one, because I'm just going to assume I'll be baling, unless I just go ahead and just replace it at the beginning of every year, which is a very, very real thing that I'm actually really strongly considering. But the other reason is the third one is so I can take it back to the welding shop and say, hey, this worked, or can you make some changes to it, so that way make me 1 or 2 more so I have more spares. I hate throwing money and I hate throwing parts at something like that, but what they are going to do to improve it is their plan is, I don't know what they're all going to do until I get the part. They're going to get away from doing the welding altogether, and they're actually going to drill it out right in the center here, and they're just going to put a simple little 3/8 bolt, I think is all they're going to put in, just enough that it'll just hold that shaft, because you need it. You can't get rid of it. Believe me, I've thought about it, but you can't. So that's what we're going to do there. But that's your update on the baler. I don't really plan on talking about it again. I mean, if I gotta say anything more about the baler, it's probably something else went south on me. Hate to say it. But the disc bind is back together. That's got to get pulled out. I'm actually probably going to do it yet today, which I'm not going to. You know what? I guess I'll leave it up to chance if I do a video on that. But that's it for the round baler. That's it for the gearbox news. I was actually all set up to give you guys a video and a voiceover of me rebuilding it. I was in the process of cleaning it up. I was pounding out all the old races, and I realized it's pretty obvious, but yeah, once it had actually finally caught my attention that it shook, it shot, it's done. Oh well, scrap iron now. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys later.